We were less than 10 minutes from the Canadian border, 3 kids in the back seat, cartoons playing, and a bag in the trunk my dad had handed me that morning. My husband turned to me, pale as a ghost, and whispered, "Pull over, right now, don't ask." I laughed. I thought he was joking, but his face wasn't joking. And when we opened that bag, everything I thought I knew about my family, about trust, about safety, cracked in half. What was inside nearly got us arrested, and the worst part, it wasn't a mistake, it was a plan. And it started with the people who were supposed to protect me. That year, Nate and I decided to drive from Ohio to Vermont with our 3 kids for my sister's wedding. It was a long trip, close to 10 hours, but it felt necessary. My family isn't exactly easy, but weddings have a way of making everyone pretend to be okay. I was driving, I always do. Nate gets motion sickness, and I don't trust how he brakes at the last possible second. The kids were half asleep in the back, earbuds in, snack bags on their laps, each of them tucked under their own fuzzy blanket. 11, 8, and 5. A little trio of chaos with juice boxes and stuffed animals. We had the GPS running, the cruise control set, and a cooler wedged on the floor between the seats. Everything felt peaceful. Not magical, not miserable, just peaceful. I was thinking about the wedding, the dress hanging in the trunk, the mental checklist of how to avoid conflict with my mom, the fake smiles for family photos, the potato salad I'd pretend to like. And then Nate turned his head, looked straight at me, and said in a voice I had never heard before, "Pull over right now, don't ask, just do it." I blinked, half laughed. I thought he was joking. "What?" He didn't respond, just stared ahead, hands stiff on his thighs, jaw clenched. Then he said it again, slower this time, quieter. "Please, just pull over." That's when I knew it wasn't a joke. My husband does not panic. This is the man who stayed calm through a kitchen fire, who once guided me through a blowout on the freeway like he was reading out of a manual. He is calm, and maybe a little tired, but never scared. I spotted a small exit coming up, last one before the state border. No hesitation. I took it. The off-ramp curved gently, like the road itself was giving me one last chance. We left the highway, drove past an old rest area, and pulled into a gravel shoulder surrounded by trees. As soon as we slowed, I saw Nate's shoulders ease just a little. Not completely, but enough for me to realize he'd been holding his breath. "You okay?" I asked. He shook his head. "Just keep driving, anywhere but back there." The kids were stirring now. "Are we lost?" my middle one asked. "We forgot something," I said. Too fast, too automatic. "What did we forget?" "I'll tell you later." The youngest leaned forward between the seats. "Is it snacks?" I didn't answer. We kept driving. The silence settled thick over us. No cartoons, no radio, just tires on pavement and that awful weight pressing down between my shoulders. And that's when I remembered. That morning, right as we were loading up, my dad handed me a navy blue duffel bag, said his car was too full. "Can you take this up to Vermont for us?" I tossed it in the trunk, didn't open it, didn't think twice. A wedding, a bag, a perfectly normal morning. But now I couldn't stop replaying that moment. The way my dad smiled, the way he made it seem so casual. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other was trembling slightly in my lap. And somewhere in my gut, something I couldn't name had started to twist. Not panic, not yet, but something colder. Something waiting. We drove for what felt like forever, but was probably 20 minutes. Off the highway, into the back roads of northern Pennsylvania, somewhere between nowhere and forgotten. The GPS had gone quiet, and the trees had grown taller. Nate hadn't said a word since I took the exit. The kids had settled again, lulled by motion and silence. I kept glancing at him, waiting, hoping. Whatever this was, it had to have an explanation. Then he spoke. "Take the next turn, that one." It wasn't a road so much as an access path, thin, cracked pavement barely wide enough for 2 cars. There was no sign, no name, just a break in the trees. I turned. We bumped along for a few hundred yards until we came to a dead-end clearing. Nothing there, no houses, no traffic, just silence, gravel, and trees. Nate unbuckled his seatbelt slowly. "Stay here," he said, already opening the door. He got out, walked around to the back of the SUV. I couldn't see him anymore, but I could hear the sound of the trunk opening. I stared at the dashboard. My palms were sweaty. My breath was shallow and uneven. The air felt thick, even though the windows were down. It was like the world had tilted just slightly, like gravity was off. A minute passed, then another. The trunk slammed shut. Nate appeared at my window. His face was unreadable. "Can you come out?" I blinked. "Why?" "I need you to see it." His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't afraid either. It was tired. Very, very tired. I stepped out. The gravel crunched under my shoes. The woods around us buzzed faintly with summer insects. He walked me to the back of the car and opened the trunk again, said nothing, just unzipped the blue duffel. He peeled back a sweatshirt, then another. Underneath was something I didn't recognize right away. Small plastic packets, sealed tight, stuffed into what looked like a child's toiletry bag, dozens of them. I stared. At first I didn't understand, then I did. Not vitamins, not medicine, not anything legal, nothing you pack for a wedding, nothing that belongs near children. I stepped back so quickly my heel slipped on the gravel. Nate caught my elbow. He didn't say, "Look what they did." He didn't say, "I knew it." He just zipped the bag shut again, slowly, deliberately. The silence after was worse than any shouting could have been. I looked at him, at the duffel, then back at him. "They put that in our car," I said. My voice sounded thin, unfamiliar. He nodded. "With the kids in the back seat," I added, another nod. I looked up at the sky. It was still blue, still clear, still beautiful. And I hated that, because the world should have changed. It should have shattered, cracked open, screamed. But instead, it just kept going. Like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just been turned into unwitting mules. Like our trust hadn't just been broken in the most dangerous, unforgivable way. I leaned on the bumper for balance. My knees were shaking now. Not from fear, not yet, but from something slower, heavier, like the floor of my life had dropped out. "How did you know?" I asked. Nate didn't answer right away. He stared at the closed trunk like it might open again on its own. Finally, he said, "Something about the way your dad smiled when he gave us the bag, like he already knew it would work." He paused, shook his head, then looked at me. I didn't know, but I knew. And somehow, that was worse. We got back in the car, didn't say a word, didn't need to. I pulled out of the clearing and back onto the road, but I wasn't really seeing anything, just trees, and flashes of everything that brought us to that moment. The bag, the trunk, the silence. And beneath it all, that old familiar ache I thought I'd buried. The one that always came back when I thought about my family. Growing up, my parents had a mantra: if it looks good, it is good. Didn't matter if the power bill was overdue or the fridge was half empty. If the lawn was trimmed and the Christmas lights were straight, we were doing great. That was the script. Stick to it or get rewritten. There were years when things were tight. I remember having cereal for dinner for 2 weeks straight. I remember my dad suddenly working late, and my mom sighing like she had no idea why the heat wasn't on. But there were also years where money flowed like water: a new car, a giant TV, a fire pit no one ever used. The money came and went like weather, but the spending, that never stopped. I once asked my dad why we didn't save more when things were good. He winked and said, "You don't need savings if you know how to hustle." I was 8. My brother Trevor inherited that mindset. The charm, the grin that could get him out of anything, the ability to make you feel like you owed him something, even when he was the one screwing up. He was always the favorite. That wasn't a secret. It wasn't even whispered. They liked him more. They got him. He was like them. I wasn't. I was the responsible one, the boring one, the one who filled out the FAFSA forms and made sure our insurance didn't lapse, the one who showed up with casseroles and cleaned up after everyone's mess. I thought responsibility was love, that being useful was how you earned a seat at the table. So I helped. I paid bills when they asked, bridged gaps when Trevor lost jobs, showed up when my parents couldn't figure out the paperwork. I never gave too much, just enough to keep things from falling apart. Enough to not be the bad guy, even when it cost me sleep, even when it left us cutting corners with our own kids. And then 4 months ago, the ask changed. Trevor's son, my nephew, was struggling in school, bullied, withdrawn, anxious. They'd taken him to a therapist. The recommendation? A smaller private school. Exclusive, expensive, life-changing, they said. They'd gotten him conditionally accepted. All they needed was a deposit. Just $5,000, just to hold the spot. They'd pay me back, of course they would. My stomach dropped the moment they brought it up. Not because I didn't care, I did. That was the worst part. I loved that kid. I wanted good things for him, but I also knew the pattern. I'd seen the beginning. I'd lived the middle. I knew how it ended. So I said no, softly, carefully, like I was handling glass. "I'm sorry, I can't. We have 3 kids. We don't do private school either." They didn't yell. They just went cold, silent, like a door closing in my face. My mom said, "Of course, I forgot. You have rules." And that was it. We didn't speak again until the wedding came up. Suddenly, everything was fine. They were cheerful, excited to see us, said they'd figured things out. I didn't ask how, told myself it wasn't my business. Then a few days before we left, my dad asked if we could take an extra bag. Their car would be too full, and we had the SUV. Just one bag, a blue duffel. I didn't unzip it, didn't question it, didn't even think about it. And that might have been the biggest mistake of all. We didn't talk for a long time after we closed the trunk. I climbed back into the driver's seat, hands still trembling, and stared at the steering wheel like I was waiting for it to decide what came next. The kids were quiet. Somehow they had all fallen asleep again. Their heads tilted at awkward angles, neck pillows askew, cartoon music faint in the background. I started the car, put it in drive, and we just left. No plan, no destination, just away. Nate sat with his arms crossed, staring out the window, his jaw still clenched, his foot tapping the floor like he was holding back something he didn't have words for yet. My phone buzzed. Mom, then Dad, then again. Then Trevor. I didn't answer, neither did Nate. It kept buzzing, every few minutes, like a soft alarm reminding us just how much had been set in motion. I knew what they were going to say. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Where's the bag? But I also knew none of those questions were real. They didn't want the truth. They just wanted control. Eventually, Nate said, "We should give it back." I nodded, not because I agreed, but because it felt like the right thing to do, the cleanest thing. We wouldn't keep it. We wouldn't destroy it. We'd just return it. The bag didn't belong to us. Neither did the lies wrapped up inside it. We pulled off the road again a few miles later. Small town, middle of nowhere, gas station with a payphone out front, and a diner that hadn't updated its sign since the 1980s. We weren't far from their house, maybe 45 minutes. That didn't feel like enough distance. But we didn't argue, we just drove. When we got to their neighborhood, it was early afternoon. Their porch light was still on from the night before, like they'd forgotten the rest of the world exists. I pulled into the driveway, turned off the engine. Neither of us moved right away. The house looked the same as always, same blue shutters, same ceramic frog by the flower bed. It was surreal, honestly, how normal everything looked after what we'd just seen. Nate got out first, walked to the back. I followed. We didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. I lifted the doormat. There it was. Same fake rock key holder Dad ordered from some random catalog years ago. Still taped exactly where it always had been. I unlocked the front door. The smell hit first, faint coffee and that overly sweet carpet cleaner they used after holidays. The house was still. We walked inside. Nate placed the duffel just inside the hallway near the umbrella stand. Didn't open it, didn't adjust it, just set it down. Like a quiet bomb that didn't need to go off to destroy everything. He locked the door behind us as we left. We got back in the car. Still no words, not for a while. Because what do you say after that? After realizing your parents didn't just cross a line, they used your family to do it? It wasn't just betrayal, it was deliberate, calculated. They knew what they were doing. They just didn't think we'd notice. Or worse, they didn't care if we did. That night, after the kids were asleep and we were finally back home, my phone rang again. It was my mom. I let it ring, then picked up. Her voice was bright, fake, too high. "Oh, honey, we were so worried. We didn't know what happened. You just disappeared." I didn't say a word. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Where's the bag?" There it was. No build-up, no real concern, just business. I let the question hang in the air, then said calmly, "We dropped it off at your house." A pause. "If it was that important," I added, "maybe you should have taken it yourself." She didn't reply right away, but I heard it, that flicker in her voice, that quiet catch in her breath. She knew I knew. And I knew exactly what she'd done. "We're not doing this," I said. "Don't call again." Then I hung up. No yelling, no big speech, just a line drawn clean. And for the first time, it stayed. They showed up on a Wednesday. No warning, no call, no just checking in text. Just the doorbell, ringing like it was any other afternoon, like they were delivering cookies instead of consequences. I didn't even have to check the peephole. You can feel certain people through a front door, like static or pressure, like heat from something you don't want to touch. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, firm, not slamming, but final. There they were, my parents, standing on the porch like we were neighbors having a casual catch-up, like they hadn't tried to blow a hole through my life 2 days earlier. My mom was holding a tray of muffins, blueberry, wrapped in cling film tied with a ribbon, like we were in a Hallmark movie where baked goods solved trauma. She gave me that tight, performative smile, the kind meant to look warm but never reaches the eyes. "We just wanted to check in," she said. My dad added, "We thought maybe we could clear the air." I said nothing, just crossed my arms, waited. My mom hesitated, then said it, "We didn't know how much you understood." There it was, the slip. They knew, and they knew I knew, but they didn't know how much I'd let myself believe. I tilted my head. "You mean the bag?" Neither of them answered, which was all the answer I needed. "You put that in our trunk," I said, "with your grandchildren in the back seat." My mom swallowed, tightened her grip on the muffins. Her voice dropped half a pitch. "We didn't think it would be a big deal." My dad stepped in, trying to sound reasonable. "It wasn't going to be anything, just something to help with the debt." "We were desperate," my mom added. "You wouldn't help." And there it was, the real motive, the fallback excuse. "You wouldn't help." Like that justified everything. Like their betrayal was just a predictable reaction to my boundaries. Like this was my fault for not handing over money I didn't have. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. You didn't just betray me, I said. You risked our lives. Neither of them spoke. You risked your daughter, your son-in-law, your grandchildren. My dad looked down at the porch. My mom blinked like she was trying to summon tears, but none came. We're done, I said. Don't call, don't come here. You don't get to see the kids. This is over. She opened her mouth. I could see the words forming already. You're being dramatic, or maybe you'll cool off. But instead, she said, you'll come around, you always do. That was her final card, not apology, not remorse, just assumption. Assumption that the cycle would continue, that I'd bend, like I always had. I turned around, walked back inside, closed the door, and this time I locked it. Not just the physical kind, the other kind, the one that keeps history from bleeding into the present. And for once, I didn't wonder if she was right. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel responsible. I just felt still. But the thing about people like them, they don't know how to lose. 3 days later, I showed up to pick up the kids from school, and they weren't there. The teacher smiled like nothing was wrong. Oh, they were already picked up. Your parents said you asked them to. The world tilted, again. I don't remember walking, just the sound of gravel beneath my tires, and the shape of dread filling my chest. When I pulled into their driveway, I already knew what I'd find. The house looked like a birthday party had exploded inside. Balloons, streamers, gift bags everywhere. Music coming from the living room, laughter. My kids, my actual living children, were inside, grinning ear to ear, holding new toys, faces smeared with frosting, cheeks glowing. My parents looked up from the chaos like nothing was wrong, like I hadn't told them to stay away, like this was just family time. My mom was slicing cake. My dad was on the floor building a toy robot that beeped and lit up. It was surreal, like I'd walked into some parallel reality where they were the kind of grandparents that gave, not took. Except I knew better. This wasn't love. This was strategy, weaponized affection. They weren't spoiling the kids out of guilt. They were trying to win them, to rewrite the narrative, fast. And worst of all, the kids were too young to know the difference. We're leaving, I said, stepping into the room like a storm. The kids looked up, confused. But why? Grandma said, we're leaving, I repeated, softer this time, final. They didn't understand. How could they? They were being told yes by people who'd only ever said no. People who, for once, had made them feel special. Can we keep the toys? My middle one asked. He held a stuffed bear like it was sacred. I paused, just a beat, then nodded. Because taking the toys away would have made me the villain, and I wasn't giving my parents that power. As we stepped out, my mom called after me, sing-songy, sweet. They'll come back to us, they always do. She said it like a fact, like a prophecy, like the last line in a bedtime story she still believed she could control. But she was wrong, for once, completely wrong. That night I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't write a long emotional letter to anyone. I just sat down on the edge of the bed, looked at Nate, and said, we have to go. He didn't ask why, he didn't need to. I don't want them near the kids, I continued. Not at school, not at the grocery store, not accidentally showing up at soccer practice pretending to be harmless. He nodded, slowly, like he'd already been halfway there. You mentioned North Carolina once, I said. Your company has an office there. Your parents live there. I wasn't ready before. I am now. He nodded again. The transfer's still on the table. Good, I said. Let's take it. There was no grand confrontation, no dramatic slam of the door, just a quiet, shared decision to burn the bridge and never look back. Not out of hatred, but for peace, for safety, for space to breathe again. 6 months later, we were in the mountains. North Carolina air is different. It smells like pine and fresh starts. The kids were in new schools. Nate's parents lived 20 minutes away and actually wanted to help. We didn't tell anyone where we went. We blocked numbers, disappeared. Not in the find yourself kind of way, in the we deserve better kind of way. One day my phone rang, unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later I listened. It was a cousin I barely spoke to. Hey, your mom says she doesn't know where you are. She's really upset. Said you just cut off contact. I don't know what's going on, but family matters. I deleted the message. Didn't call back, didn't explain. Because by then I only cared about one thing. We were safe, we were free. We didn't disappear. We escaped. Then one morning, months later, I got an email. Subject line, emergency, please read. It was from Trevor. I stared at it for a while, thought about deleting it, thought about marking it as spam. But I opened it. It was long, messy, panicked. Our parents had been arrested, this time actually arrested. No middlemen, no family scapegoats, just them. Two 60-somethings caught trying to cross state lines with controlled substances, intent to distribute, no room for denial. They were facing real time. They needed help, money, a lawyer. Your family, please put the past aside. I read it 3 times, then hit reply, and wrote exactly one sentence. I showed up once, I'm not doing it again. Then I hit send. They took a plea deal, 4 years each, not forever, but long enough. Long enough to sit with what they did, if they were capable of it. The kids laugh more now. Nate sleeps deeper. I don't check my phone with dread anymore. The silence is no longer scary, it's sacred. And as for the rest of it? No, I don't regret the boundary, not for a second. But you tell me, did I go too far, or not far enough? Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with clarity. I didn't burn the bridge, I just stopped pretending it wasn't already ashes. If you've ever had to choose peace over people, if you've ever drawn a line to protect your future, then you understand. Here on Sweet Revenge, Happy Ending, we tell stories for those who chose healing over havoc. If this one stayed with you, hit subscribe. Let's keep walking toward better endings, together.